On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, the Boston Celtics are officially dead and their season ended in the funniest way imaginable. Coming back from down 0-3 just to get blown out in front of the best fans in the NBA, the best home court advantage in the National Basketball Association. TD Garden. Can't believe it didn't work out in Game 7. I was told that don't let the Celtics win one, or else they're going to come back and they're obviously going to win Game 5 at home. Then if they can steal Game 6, they can bring it back to Game 7, and at that point, it's a done deal. They're going to win Game 7. What a roller coaster that series ended up being. I don't know how much I'm going to talk about it, to be honest, TJ. I don't know. I mean, like I think when I was watching Game 7 and I was watching the Celtics get blown out on their home court, and the fans were distraught, and it was delicious. I was enjoying it, but I think I was prepared to come on the show and let it rip, but now that we're here a few days later, it's like I almost pity them. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how fired up I can get between now and when I'm supposed to rant about the Boston Celtics. The NBA Finals start on Thursday. Jason Timpf of The Volume is joining us. Jason is, I said this in the interview, but I'm going to reiterate it here, that he's just a basketball junkie in all the right ways from my perspective. He's so fun to talk to, so fun to listen to. If you're a nerd of the game, he's must listen. I have, like, to be completely transparent, I didn't want to tell him this because I didn't want him to get mad at me, but when I don't know what the hell's going on in the NBA, I just go listen to his show, and then I just figure out a way to say what he's saying, except say it differently and make it sound like they're my words. I plagiarize him, is what I'm telling you. I plagiarize. So basically, if you like this show, you're definitely going to love his show because he's the one with the actual takes. No, Jason's awesome. Jason is I've never actually met the guy, and he came on the show, and we had a fun conversation about the finals and basketball and everything else. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Also, the NBA draft deadline we're recording this Wednesday. So by the time everybody is hearing this, the deadline is come and gone for players to pull out of the draft if they want to maintain their college eligibility. Oscar Tshiebwe, as we just sat down to record, announced that he will not be coming back to Kentucky. So maybe we talk about that a little bit. Maybe a little Caleb Love to Arizona. There's some college basketball news and notes we could hit on as well. But NBA Finals starting on Thursday. I think it's going to be a good finals. There, I said it. I'm not afraid to say that. I think it's going to be fun. I think even if the Nuggets sweep the Heat, we're all going to have fun along the way, and we're going to enjoy our time watching the basketball. But maybe that's controversial to say. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to talk with Jason Timpf. We're going to talk about some of the NBA draft deadline stuff and some other stuff coming up. Let's get to it. All right, so I go on Pardon My Take on Friday, and Dan asked me about this rivalry I have with Celtics fans, and I, if I'm being completely honest, it's not a rivalry that I wanted to be a part of. I did not, despite popular opinion, TJ, I did not come to Barstool. I did not come into the coverage of the NBA playoffs on this show and say, what would be great for my show? We did not have a production meeting about this. We did not say, I'm going to attack the Celtics fans, and then that way we'll get clicks and I'll get views and all this sort of thing. And then when they get mad, I'll be indignant and just be like, I don't know what you're mad about. Why are you guys mad? And this was not a song and dance that I had orchestrated. It just kind of happened organically. It started when Game 5 against the Sixers, I saw the Celtics fans booing. That broke my brain. For a lot of the East Coast scumbags out there, they were like, that's how we operate. That's not how I operate. So to me, I was like, this is insane that you're booing when the season's not even over. I've talked about this on the show a million times. I don't mean to keep beating this dead horse, but I'm just trying to explain the background here. That was like, I wouldn't say a breaking point, but that was like that was just like whoa, what the hell's going on? Like, how entitled are these fans that they're booing their team when the season's not even over? There's still hope. Like, I would expect a little bit of like, come on boys, let's go. And they're booing. And that was really confusing me. So I go and Pardon My Take on Friday. We actually recorded it before Game 5. So this was after the Celtics had won Game 4. I had come into the office the next day. Everyone was asking, are the Celtics going to come back from down 3-0 to beat the Heat? I seem to be like the only person that was like, it's so obvious to me that this is not going to happen that I'm starting to get worried that I'm missing something that everyone else is seeing. But like, no, of course Of course, a team that has sucked at home in the playoffs. Of course, a team that has issues with like bringing consistent effort night in and night out. Of course, a team that has issues with bringing consistent shooting night in and night out. Yada 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 are going to win 4 straight games against a team that's in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like that doesn't compute with me at all. I can't believe we're even entertaining this. I believe at one point on social, someone shoved a camera in my face and I said something like, if the Boston Celtics jersey said Atlanta Hawks, no one would even be entertaining this idea. It's like insane the level of delusion that these people have that you think that this is even a thing just because you won one game and made it 3-1. So I go on Pardon My Take. We were talking about it a little bit. I said pretty much what I just said right there. I was like, I don't see how this is going to happen. I've been surprised before watching basketball. Like, I don't mean to say it's never going to happen, but I just don't see how this Celtics team is going to do it. And I get attacked, TJ. So then game 5 then happens, and it's now 3-2, and it's going back to Miami. A lot of emails, a lot of DMs saying suck my dick, saying as a Boston fan, go ahead and suck my dick because we're coming back from down 3-0.
Who's emailing?
Emails. A lot of I got one email.
That sounds like a personal attack. Somebody's emailing you suck my dick.
It was a personal attack. Suck my dick. It said, hello, Mr. Titus, comma. That's how it said. The subject was suck my dick ? And that's how it got me. I was like, interesting. That's a great
at barstoolsports.com.
Yeah. It's like, interesting proposal. Let me see what this guy has to say. And he's like, hello, Mr. Titus. I hope this email finds you well. Would you kindly suck my dick? Because we're winning this series. So going into Game 6, I'm getting bombarded. I go on Pardon My Take. I say the same things I've been saying on this show. They've won one title in almost 40 years now, which, is better than a lot of franchises. I don't mean to say it's not. It's just like, from my perspective, I don't see that that's a position where you go into every single playoff and say, if we don't win the title, we're going to boo the team. So yeah, I said all that. I get a bunch of blowback, TJ. So when finally Game 7 happened, Game 6, of course, the Celtics win in the tip-in, and at that point there's a lot of chest puffing, there's a lot of champagne bottles being popped, all that sort of thing. So when Boston gets blown out in Game 7, I was prepared to just go ape shit on this show. I was prepared to just bring the flamethrower and say, me suck your dick? No. As it turns out, you're going to suck my dick, okay? That's how this is going to work. That's what I was prepared to do. But then a funny thing happened, and after the Celtics were blown out at home in Game 7, I got like twice as many emails as I was getting from the Boston fans about how I'm a hater and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I got twice as many saying, my bad. They were tapping their chest and they're like, that's my bad. I was wrong. You were right, and I apologize for... No, I'm just kidding. I didn't get a single goddamn email, TJ. Not one single email from anybody that said you were right the whole time, and all that shit talking that I was doing before we actually won the series. Wow, I feel like an absolute asshole now. Not a single one. Not one single email. Not one email, not one DM, not one anything. Not one single thing did anybody walk back the kiss my ass. And so now here I am. I don't know. I don't know what to do, TJ, because it is old news. Like they lost. Like I'm not surprised by what happened. As it turns out, this was my viewpoint of I don't think the Celtics are going to win 4 straight was based out of being a hater. It was based out of it's literally never happened. And the reason it's literally never happened is because, as I said earlier, it is very, very, very difficult to beat a team, any NBA team 4 times in a row, but to beat a team that is in the Eastern Conference Finals, that has already beat you 3 times in a row. And you're a team that has issues with all the things I said earlier, and you have a 34-year-old coach in his first year. Like, it just didn't compute in my brain. And now here we are. So like, I'm not surprised. It's been a few days, but still some part of me wants to just go nuts. I don't know if I have the energy though. So I don't know. I think I'm going to let him off. I think like, I don't know what else to do. I just like, I'm like, this is a fight. Like the fight has already been won. I don't want to spike the football at this point. It's all. I guess I pity Celtics fans more than anything else at this point.
At least you don't seem too personally affected by it. So at least there's that. I will say the last thing, I think right before or maybe right after you went on Part of My Take, Hank came up to me and was like, "Yo, what's good with your boy talking about Celtics fans?" Like they were very much taking it personal. Like that's not an exaggeration at all.
It's insane. The unearned arrogance from this fan base is absolutely insane. My whole point was this, TJ. It's that I get that Boston fans think everybody hate them. In football, that is true that they hate you because they're jealous. Like I understand that. If someone says I hate the Patriots, more likely than not, it's because the Patriots win a lot, and I cheer for a team that I wish would win as much as they win, and I'm a hater, and like ultimately it just comes down to that. Is like I have my own problems with your team being better than mine. Okay, so like I understand that. The Red Sox may be a similar thing. I swear to God, hand to God, I have no problem with the Red Sox. In fact, I'm a Cubs fan. When I was growing up, I saw the Red Sox as the AL kindred spirit of the Cubs. We both had curses. We both, Theo Epstein gets us both over the hump eventually. I was cheering for the Red Sox as hard as Red Sox fans probably were when they came back from down 3-0 to beat the Yankees. I thought that was awesome because I thought if the Red Sox can do it, maybe someday the Cubs will be able to do it. I've never had a problem with the Red Sox. And the Red Sox have won 4 titles. I've never been a hater about it. It's whatever. It's indifferent. All of my rants about Celtics fans have been specifically Celtics fans and have been just trying to hammer home the delusion that you think because Tom Brady lined up at quarterback for your football team and because a group of baseball players 20 years ago beat the Yankees, it means fuck all with the basketball team in 2023. That was the part that was insane to me. That was I was like, are we doing a bid here? Like, what's going, am I... Why am I made out to be the crazy one when it's all very, because from my perspective, the Celtics, as I've said a million times, you've won 1 title in 37 years now, which again, I grew up, I guess, sort of cheering for the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers have never won a title. The Denver Nuggets have never won it. This is the Nuggets' first trip to the finals. 1 title in 37 years is not worth clowning a franchise for. What is the attitude that we expect this year after year, or that whole thing, just because of what else is going on in your city. It's I don't know. I pity them. This is the point now where, TJ, if you could condense the Boston Celtics fan base into one person, and that person was a good friend of yours, this would be where you stage an intervention, where you'd be like, hey man, I love you, but this has gotten out of control. This delusion is on another level. What is wrong with you for thinking that, bro, you won 1 game and you texted me, we're going to the fucking ship. What was that about? You won 1 game.
And I know that it doesn't matter because playing hypotheticals, they're not real situations. What would this podcast intro have looked like had they won Game 7?
This is Kanye West at the Grammys. I guess we'll never know. I don't know. I in all honesty, I won't pretend going into Game 7, I wasn't damn, I'm gonna eat some shit. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot more emails, a lot more. I keep saying emails now. You have me. I'm gonna get a lot more I'm gonna get a lot more DMs, a lot more people hitting me up. But I truly, as I said on the last show before we left, I truly did not get nervous, if that's the way you want to. That's the word I guess I'll use. Until game 6 was basically over. Even when the Celtics were up in Game 6, I was like, there's still a lot of time left in this game. And even if it goes to Game 7, I was one of the few people that was like, no, I didn't expect the Heat to blow them out, but I was like, it's Game 7 in the playoffs with Jimmy Butler, dude. What world do you think that a team that was going into Game 7, the Celtics in the last 2 years are 500 at home in the playoffs, and yet somehow I'm supposed to believe that a Game 7 is unwinnable for the Heat?
They were 8-point underdogs in Game 7. That was crazy.
How is that? This is. I swear to God, I'm not trying to be, I don't want to be that's why I don't want to talk about it, because I just want to move past it. It's not worth my time, but also at the same time, I do get fired up because it's the delusion of there are 3 fan bases in the NBA right now that go into every season expecting to win a championship, and in 2023, I mean, from where I'm sitting, there are 3 super fucking annoying NBA fan bases: the Los Angeles Lakers, the Golden State Warriors, and the Boston Celtics. Those are the 3 fan bases that if you're not a fan of one of those 3 teams, you're saying, I hate all these people. Please shut up. Just let it be. Let whatever happen. I don't want to talk about LeBron, in the middle of a season when the Lakers are just okay. Why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about Marcus Smart's Defensive Player of the Year campaign when he's obviously not even the best defender on his own team? What? How did I get sucked into this vortex of talking about these 3 teams? Please just shut the fuck up and let me be. Those are the three franchises, TJ. The difference, I don't know if you've been on Wikipedia lately, looking through the list of NBA champions, but the Warriors win a lot of damn championships. The Lakers win a lot of damn championships. So, like, as annoying as those fan bases are, there's some part of you's like, they are more like the Patriots, where you're like, I mean, you're annoying, dude, but I get it. I get, like, if you're a Lakers fan, how you think that you're special, because, I mean, like, honestly, every time an NBA All-Star, their contract's up, the Lakers always seem to be in the mix, you know, of signing them in free agency, and the Lakers always seem to win championships, and the Warriors, just when we want to count them out, they show up last year and win an NBA title, and it's like, damn, I guess there is something special about this franchise. I don't understand where the arrogance came from Boston fans. That's what doesn't compute with me. That's what's like, I don't... If any of my teams had won one title in 37 years, I would be like, man, I really hope we can do it. I would have expectations. I'd be like, I think we're good enough to win this year. I would be heartbroken if we didn't win, but I would not be down 3-0. We win one game and be like, suck my fucking dick. We're going to fucking win the whole fucking thing.
It is funny, too, because, like, the answer to that, like, why they feel that way is their answer would be, well, the Patriots, well, the Red Sox, well, the like, as if that has anything to do with anything, but that
has nothing to do with anything. That's what's been so confusing
in Boston.
Yeah, and then on top of it, you start, like, if you work in sports media and you're not from Boston, it does become exhausting. Just like, you know, like, so there's that part of it too, where it's like this city, like, I mean, this is,
you may have picked the wrong company.
I know. Well, dude, that's the thing, is you think this isn't a Barstool problem, TJ. This is every company I've worked with has been run by massholes. So I'm very familiar with this. This is a decade in the making of me, just like looking around, like, why am I at work right now talking about, you know, a franchise that I didn't think. I don't understand. I'm very confused as to how we got here. But good season for the Celtics, though. Good season, going to the Eastern Finals, going to 7 games. That's pretty good. I think that's good. I think there's a lot to. I will fight back on the, because I get a lot of people. A lot of the Boston fans are like, we should be able to boo Game 5. Like, I can't believe you're hung up on that. You're a pussy bitch. Get over it. All that sort of thing. And, like, you know, maybe I am, but I still think that's crazy. And you pointing out that the Yankees fans do the same thing does not actually help the Celtics fans' case.
Yeah, that's not surprising from
it's like,
Yankees.
It's like, but that's like also a great example of another fan base that I would say is.
Oh yeah, for sure. We haven't made the World Series in over a decade.
Yeah, and booing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if the Yankees fans were booing when you guys are in the ALCS and you lose at home, yeah, the series isn't even over, I would be saying the exact same things about Yankees fans. I'd be like, what are you doing? This is not, like, why do you expect to win every year? You're already in the ALCS. Like, I guess it would be the DS if we're trying to keep a comparison here. But anyway, point stands.
What do they do now?
Where do the Celtics go from here? I honest to God, stick aside whatever Celtics hater in me, I'm removing all of that. The more I thought about it, I do think they run it back, and that seems insane because you've reached a point where you're like, obviously Tatum and Brown can't get over the hump, and they're just destined to get close enough to the door to knock on it, but never to walk through. I don't necessarily think that that's a given. In fact, I would argue, as you sit here today, if you say that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown will be playing for the Celtics, both of them for the next 10 years. Will they win one championship or not? I would say yes. I expect them to win at least one. I would still, even in light of everything we've seen from them, all the different instances of where it feels like they aren't going to get over the hump. They don't have the mental fortitude. They don't have the ball handling skills. I love that like Jaylen Brown is just. You could just basically search Jaylen Brown ball handling every time the Celtics play, and you on Twitter. And if you're not watching the game, you can tell how it's going based on that. Jaylen Brown stunk in this series. He was very, very bad, and he deserves the blame. But the issue is that if you move on from Jaylen Brown, what does the alternative look like? Because you're not necessarily going to be better. There's no guarantee you're going to be better. In fact, I would dare to guess that you're going to get worse because the Celtics this was kind of part of why my mind was blown when the fans have this expectation of winning championships and all that. Is like having a team that can consistently get to the conference finals every single year, seemingly. That's a really fucking good basketball team. That is a really, really talented basketball team. And I don't think that should be taken for granted. That Mazzulla's coming back, right? Isn't that what they said? Like they're coming back and they're going to help him get better assistants is kind of what I was
guess,
seeing.
And like, as the more I watched them start to make a comeback, the more I was like, maybe he wasn't that much of an issue, and maybe it just came down to like he can't make the shots for them. Like obviously, if like he's making adjustments or whatever, that they start coming back. I don't know. The more I watched them come back in that series, the less that I felt like the blame should be on him.
He just literally calling timeouts was a big change. Like he just like he would go on a 7-0 run and he would call timeout, and it was like just simply doing that is a massive improvement. But I expect I don't think the Celtics should really do major changes. I don't think they should blow it up, and I don't expect them to. I think Brad Stevens is smart enough to not do that. Mazzulla will be back. I think you give him another chance. I think Tatum and Brown, because that's kind of how all of this started. My beef with the Celtics fans all started is that I do think that there is value in having if Brown and Tatum do for the next 10 years never win a championship, but they keep going to the Eastern Conference Finals, and every so often they make the finals and lose in 6 games. That's a hell of a run, man. That's a hell of a run. And I get that you didn't win the championship and all, but like the alternative, this is where the entitlement and the arrogance and the unearned, like for you to think that like that you're deserving of winning championships, that's misplaced. You're not. Like it's a very, very difficult thing to do. And I think the smart people in basketball circles, which isn't me, it's just like I learned this from these people, like being around them and hearing people talk about this sort of thing. You realize that you can't look at this stuff. You can't be results based with your analysis of like where your team is and all that sort of thing. You have to believe in. I'm trying to not use the word process because that's sort of the Sixers thing, or that's they've kind of stolen that in terms of NBA, but. That is how you have to approach it. You have to say like you have the goal in winning a championship isn't to have the single best team in the NBA and have like a fucking juggernaut that could take on the 96 Bulls. The goal to win the approach to winning a championship should be there's a certain threshold you have to be good enough to be in the mix. And if you can consistently year after year be in that threshold, you just have to trust that injuries will break your way, that the right matchups will break your way, that home court advantage will break your way. Like whatever it is, whatever the basketball gods, whatever favor you need from the basketball gods will fall into your lap. I think that's the way you win in the NCAA tournament. I think that's the way you win in the, of course, obviously the Warriors adding Kevin Durant. That's one way of doing it. One way of doing it is being a 73-win team and signing Kevin Durant. The Bulls, the 96 Bulls, that's also another way of doing it, is having one of the greatest teams ever assembled. But by and large, I think the approach should be get good enough to get there and then just cross your fingers that it'll work out eventually. And that's not to say like don't change anything. I think the Celtics should make tweaks. I think they do need to find a consistent ball handler. I think they need to... there needs to be some sort of stylistic approach to how they obviously were very, not just the fans, the fucking players were like very arrogant, and like even the sense of the players had of like, as this comeback that wasn't even really a comeback happened, did you see all those quotes like going into game 4, like don't let us get one, and it's like, well then what's gonna happen? You're gonna be down.
They were doing still. Yeah, that's Kevin Millar said that in 2004 when the Red Sox were playing game 4 against the Yankees. He said, don't let us win tonight. So that was... Which has nothing to do with it. I will say the toughest quotes that are coming out from this are the Jaylen Brown, Taylor Rooks interview from like 2018 where Jaylen Brown said that he would have 5 or more titles by the time he turned 28. And he's 26.
It's
26
insane.
Now, and he has 0 titles.
So if he just wins 5 titles in the next 2 years, he'll be good.
He didn't say. I don't think he said NBA titles, so he could still win something.
Car titles. He just like buys a car. He buys a car and gets the title to his car. Yeah, I don't think they. I think there are tweaks. I think you make tweaks, but the arrogant part of it, I do think that's a legitimate concern with the Celtics, and I think like That was part of the fascination I had with like if it goes to game 7 against the Heat, the Celtics are going to definitely win. Part of me that was like, I don't understand how people are making that leap, is that the Celtics, when the chips are down, yes, they play well, but their whole problem is that they all think that they've won 5 championships already. And their whole approach to all these playoff games, there is an arrogance, there is an entitlement from the players that, like, we're the better team on paper. How many times have you heard that about the Celtics, these playoffs? That when they go into a game, if they come all the way back from down 3-0 to tie the series, going into game 7, they're now going to be smelling their own farts and like prematurely celebrating and lose everything that made them come back in the first place. I think they address stuff like that. I think there something needs to be done there. Like, you got to, I don't know how they go about it. Missoula does, there's got to be like a cultural shift of some sort. But the core they have is good enough. That's I mean, it's going to seem crazy to say it because they have not won an NBA championship. They've only been to 1 finals. But I think this core is good enough to win a title. And whether they will or not, that remains to be seen. But I think blowing it up, yeah, if you can blow it up to get the KD Warriors, do it. I would say do that. But like, what if you don't? Well, I mean, like, what is out there? What is, before you hit detonate on the TNT that's going to blow up this building, what are we building in place of this again? Does anybody have any blueprints of what we're building in place of this? And I think the people that want to blow it up don't exactly have a clear blueprint. They're just sick of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but mostly Jaylen Brown. And they're like, get this man out of my face. Let's get something better in here. So which I understand, but it's just like, that's not how it's going to work. I feel like
if you're going to blow it up and try and build it up back up from the ground, you would just like rebuild the same team. Like, maybe they should just legally change their names, and that would be as effective as blowing the whole team up and restarting.
You're exactly right. A lot of these teams that are blowing up, a lot of the NBA teams that are tanking, and maybe not this year might not be a great example because Wembanyama was the ultimate prize in the tanking, but like in general, teams that are tanking, they're trying to be as good as this Celtics team is already. Like, that's their goal. It's like, we want to get to this level of how good the Celtics
are. They have
the
build for it. It's like they have like the 2 stud players. They have the veteran leader, big man. They have like the role players that come in off the bench, and Derek White randomly becomes like Superman and wins, like saves their season. I don't know. I could see this. I could see Dylan Brooks ending up as a Boston Celtic next year.
Oh my
Throw him
God,
in the mix. Let him play the defensive stopper that everybody in the league hates. I think Celtics fans would embrace the fuck out of him if he showed up in green and black next year.
In honor of Colin Cowherd, who runs the volume, Jason Timpf, our guest that we're about to talk to here in a second, his boss. So Cowherd, I saw after the Warriors was throwing out just absurd trades for Jordan Poole that, like, what was did he say Jordan Poole for Jaylen Brown? Was that one of the trades that he suggested? But Cowherd was just like throwing out absurd trades, and he's like, why would the Warriors not do this? And I was like, I don't think it's the Warriors that wouldn't do it. I think it's the Celtics that wouldn't. But it works, and people seem to eat the trash, TJ. So I'm going to try that here. I think what the Boston Celtics need to do if they want to get to the next level is get Jalen Brunson on this team. I think Jalen Brunson's a winner. I think you trade Marcus Smart for Jalen Brunson. It's a straight up deal. I don't understand why the Celtics would not do this. I think that's what they need to do to get a playmaker at point guard who can make plays off the bounce, who can create for others. I think that is a big weakness in the Celtics team, and having a guy like him, and I think you need some shooting. So I think you call the Warriors. Klay Thompson, not as good as he's been. You might be able to get a good deal on him right now. Like there's a belief around the league that Klay Thompson's a little over the hill. I think you call the Warriors, you see what you can get for Klay Thompson, or see what you need to give up for Klay Thompson. I think you get Jalen Brunson from New York, and I think you have a core 4 of Jalen Brunson, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Klay Thompson, and I think that's a team that can win the NBA championship, TJ. I think you just have to make the call and see what happens. How was that? Was that good? Was that slightly believable? You have to throw out names that are like, at least, but you can't say like get Luka or get Giannis.
What's Kyrie's contract situation? Maybe we should get the Celtics could use a guy like Kyrie.
Kyrie.
If only.
Anyway, Celtics fans, it was a fun ride. I enjoyed the back and forth, but in the end, I will not be sucking any of your dicks. Sorry to say. It won't be happening. And I do think the Celtics will be back. That's the thing about being a hater and also being a scumbag Boston fan, is there is always next year. Because even that's ultimately what I would have. The Boston lovers and the Boston haters do the same thing, TJ, which is always pivot to what's next. There's always another thing. If the Celtics would have won Game 7, that's probably what I would have opened the show with. I would have pivoted to, but the Nuggets are going to beat their ass. And then if the Celtics won, I still would have been. We would just move the goalpost. Just move the goalpost. That's what you got to do. And with that, if you're a Celtics fan and you're really upset with where we're at and how people are shitting all over your team and you and everything else, you got next year. I think the team will be good enough next year because they have to be, right? Because if not, let's boo them, right? There's a lot of one last thing. There's a lot of when the Celtics win, it's we, and when the Celtics are playing like ass, a lot of talk from Celtics fans is they. Just wanted to point that out. I noticed that as well. They suck. These guys, Brown and Tatum, they suck. Get them out of here. They're so. And then the Celtics start winning. They're like, we're the fucking best. We're the.
How did you feel about Jimmy Butler winning Conference Finals MVP over Caleb Martin?
It should have been Caleb Martin. I think it should have been Caleb Martin. I love Jimmy, but Jimmy had some stinkers in this series, and Jimmy the one thing that worried me, like holy shit, maybe the Celtics really are going to do this, was Game 6. Jimmy, not just that he was getting a shot blocked every time he went to the basket, and he was having a horrendous game. It was just the general feeling watching, like it looked like Jimmy was seeing ghosts. He looked like the whole dog that was supposed to be in him had been taken around the back shed and shot in the head, dude. He just looked like, I was like, what the hell happened? Like, where's Jimmy Butler? And then he showed back up for Game 7, thankfully. But I think Caleb Martin was like the one consistent. Like, he's the reason they won the series ultimately. I think you replace Jimmy Butler with the guy who's like of his stature and put him on the Heat team. I think the Heat still win. But like what Caleb Martin was supposed to bring to the Heat and what he actually brought was like insane. He's the reason they won the series. So enough about that. Let's talk with Jason Timpf. Great interview with him. He knows so much. I love having guys like him on because he knows basketball. Like, and he talks about it in a way that I love talking about with my friends. But at the same time, he knows way more than I do about these teams and about the NBA and all that stuff. So you get a little insecure, TJ, every so often when you get a Jason Timpf on. You swing the ball to him and you let him cook and you let him do his thing. But Jason's a really bright basketball mind, and we had a great conversation. So here it is, a little NBA Finals preview with Jason Timpf. All right, before we talk with Jason Timpf, I want to first talk about the Barstool Sportsbook. The Barstool Sportsbook is now offering a $1,000 bonus for new players. If your first bet loses, get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So download and create an account today. Use code Titus to unlock your $1,000 bonus. Right now, I'm looking at the Barstool Sportsbook. The Denver Nuggets are minus 385 to win the NBA championship. The Miami Heat are plus 300. I saw the Nuggets it's been kind of jumping all over the place. The spread, what's the spread in the first game? It's sitting at 8.5 now. It was a 9. I think this series, as much as, Jason and I are about to talk about it, but as much as it does feel like the Nuggets are heavy favorites, I imagine we're going to see some wild spreads. We're going to see some, if you're a value better, maybe you believe in the Heat a little more than the public does. Maybe you throw some action on that. And if you do want to throw some action on it, there's no better place to do that than the Barstool Sportsbook. So download and create an account today. Use the code Titus. Unlock a $1,000 bonus. Use code Titus, Titus, for that $1,000 bonus. Terms apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now here's my conversation with the Volume's Jason Timpf. All right, joining me now is Jason Timpf. He hosts the Hoops Tonight with Jason Timpf podcast on the Volume Podcast Network. You can listen to him. Pretty much, he's pumping out shows. You're about like every night, Jason. You're just like pumping out shows left and right, man. It's been incredible.
Yeah, more than one per day. There was a stretch there where I looked back and we did like 50 episodes in 34 days. So it's a little stressful, but I try to strike while the iron's hot this time of year. You know how it goes.
It's incredible. One of the things I love about listening to you talk about the NBA is that, and I've told you this off air, but I want to make sure I say it on air. You are a breath of fresh air in a media landscape that seems more concerned with who on the Lakers Kim Kardashian might be dating and what And who is Ja Morant following on Instagram? And what did Tyler Hero wear on the bench of the last Heat game? You just talk ball, man. You're all ball, and I freaking love it because that is one of the, like I'm not going to pretend like I'm not interested in that other stuff. I do click on it when it comes to, I'm part of the problem. But that's one of my frustrations with the NBA, and I get pegged as a college guy who's like, sort of an NBA hater. People think I hate the NBA. I don't. I just kind of hate, I just love basketball, and I want more basketball. So finding your stuff has been a breath of fresh air, man. It really has. It's been so enjoyable just listening to you break down matchups and teams and all that sort of stuff.
No, it means a lot, man. It's funny too, because with the volume, I remember when I first got hired by them, I had several people reach out to me and be like, hey, be careful. The industry is going to try to push you in this direction. And what was funny is I want to give them a ton of credit. They never tried to get me to do anything that I didn't want to do. They literally just were like, talk about the game the way you want to talk about the game. And honestly, man, it was so encouraging to me to actually see people want to listen to that, because to me, basketball in and of itself, just the game of basketball is the best thing in the world. And so the fact that people aren't consuming it for that and that alone to me is crazy. But again, the drama is always going to get our attention. It's a huge part of the business. I'd be lying if I told you I don't engage in it from time to time. Just to me, it should be secondary to the game itself.
I want the drama to get people into the basketball, but then once you're there, you're still eating your meat and potatoes, which is the basketball, which I guess is a good segue into these NBA finals, which start on Thursday, that the general public seems to think are terrible. We haven't even seen a second of basketball played yet, and it feels like people are out on these playoffs. I don't know if it's because the Celtics Lakers was sitting right there for us, and everyone was just foaming at the mouth of LeBron versus the Celtics, or what it is. But I'm very confused why people are out on these finals, because let's start with the Nuggets. The Nuggets are heavy favorites to win this thing, and I guess maybe you talk yourself into they're just going to roll and it's going to be boring, and we're looking at a sweep, maybe a 5-game series, and they're just unstoppable. But the Nuggets being in the finals in and of itself, before we even knew who they were going to play, people seem to be down on this idea. This blows my mind, because to me, they are the most fun team in the NBA, and the only team that comes close. I'm not talking about the best, but they're going to probably be the best too, but just pure fun. I just enjoy watching them play. I enjoy watching Jokic play. Their offense is incredible, and yet somehow, just because their chest says Denver, it feels like people are out on them. What am I missing, Jason? Why is this such a hard sell? This team that is objectively the most fun team in the league, people don't want to watch them.
I get the little bit of discouragement from the standpoint of how dope would it have been to see LeBron James in his 20th season play in the NBA Finals? Come on, I get it. I understand some of that sentiment, but to me, Denver lacks drama, but they are a very interesting basketball team. I think they're great, even juxtaposed against recent NBA champions. Some of the negativity surrounding this particular series is not being explained properly, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a quick series, but there's a basketball reason for that. If you look at the Eastern Conference, from Milwaukee to New York to Boston, all three of those teams had crippling weaknesses in the half court offensively, with Giannis's inability to make free throws and to make shots over the top, with Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday's inconsistency. Julius Randle fell apart in that second round series. All their spot up shooters went cold. Basically, Jalen Brunson was the only guy up to the challenge. And then that Celtics team, 2 shot creators with big weaknesses, and then a bunch of good, not great shooters. And so Spoelstra was kind of the perfect guy to capitalize on those things. But all of those specific advantages that Spoelstra targeted with those teams are strengths for Denver. And so that's where, from a basketball perspective, I struggle to come up with ways Miami can win games in this series. That's where I get a little discouraged about this final. I hated that Boston team. They're arrogant. They didn't play hard all the time. Their actual brand of basketball was so boring. There's no offensive organization. It's very selfish from time to time. But the reason why I wanted them to win is they're just so damn talented that it would have been a more entertaining finals just from the standpoint of the talent stacking up. I think this Denver team is awesome, and I think they're going to beat up Miami just because they're better.
Yeah, I guess I understand that. Like, if you're someone who thinks that the series is going to be ugly in that regard, I could see you being checked out. But like the way they go about it, though, is like you would think that people, the way they're talking about the Nuggets, that they're just in these, that they're winning games like 71-65, or like people are just like, I can't watch, I don't want to watch this Nugget. I'm so like all that tells me is that you're not watching the Nuggets at all. Like I'm just very confused by, and I know you're partial to the Lakers. I know you love LeBron. I do too. I think LeBron's incredible. So I don't mean this as a slight towards the Lakers, but the Nuggets are objectively, they were more fun to watch than the Lakers, even before they swept them. I thought going into the Lakers-Nuggets series, I was like, again, I don't know who's better. We'll find out soon enough. But in terms of just like pure throw the game on and like just watch what happened, like I would rather watch teams play the Nugget style of basketball than the Lakers like grinding out this win, and LeBron like having to pick his spots because he's a little older and like all that. So I'm confused why people think that like we as a basketball public lost by getting Heat Nuggets, when really the Celtics Lakers would have been like an old ass LeBron, who I love LeBron, but LeBron's like out of gas at this point, and he's picking his spots. You have passive Anthony Davis who's showing up like when he decides, when he feels like it. D'Angelo Russell, like the Lakers had their flaws. The Celtics, as you said, were super frustrating for a million different reasons. This was the better outcome, and yet people seem disappointed. It's very frustrating to me.
Oh, watching the Lakers was a chore, man. Everything was so difficult for them offensively, especially after LeBron got hurt, because he still had that burst before the foot injury, and he could beat people off the dribble and made their offense flow a little bit easier. They actually had a brief stretch in the middle of the season without Anthony Davis where they had one of the better offenses in the league when LeBron and Russ were both playing super well. But you're like Denver, it's funny too, because like there's two different things happening here. Obviously, there's this coming out party for Jokic, and I think he's finally getting the recognition he deserves as being the best player in the league. But this roster is like literally perfect for him and so much more talented than people think. Jamal Murray, I think when we do player rankings after the season, I think he's got a good case to be in the top 15. The level of shot making he's displaying in pick and roll is off the charts. His pull-up jump shot, it took all season for him to really get into rhythm, but man, is he in rhythm now, and he's been torching everybody. And then again, like people don't realize, it's not just that you have good shooters on the weak side. You cannot leave them dead-eye shooters on the weak side in KCP and Michael Porter Jr. And then Aaron Gordon is like everything you have to be great at to be an off-ball threat that can't shoot. Aaron Gordon is great at. So he's a great vertical threat. He's great at deep seals in the basket. He can, under the basket, he can post up mismatches. There was a game against Miami this year where they were just spamming a switch on to Kyle Lowry and just posting Kyle Lowry possession after possession after possession with Aaron Gordon and scoring every single time. And then you have Bruce Brown. Like, this Denver team is awesome. I think they're the best team that I've seen since the 2017 Warrior or 2018 Warriors. So I hope they get the necessary recognition. But I do like. I'll just ask you, Mark. Do you think Miami's going to win any games in this series?
I'm doing what you're kind of doing, where and this happens in college basketball too. Like, it feels very familiar with like the teams that make the Final Four, and you're like, there's no way they can actually win the national championship. But then you catch yourself and you're like, but I've also said that every step of the way, and they've made it this way. That's where I'm at with Miami, where I was like, all right, so now the clock's going to strike midnight on Cinderella, and this fun little run they're on is going to end. But we said that every single step of the way. I didn't really say that against the Knicks, though. The Knicks, I thought, was a toss-up. I thought that made sense to me. But I thought the Celtics would beat them. I thought the Bucks would beat them. So part of me is like, I don't want to count out the Heat because I've been wrong every step of the way about the Heat. Now, the flip side to that, Jason, is I've also said every series going in that I believe the Nuggets are going to win rather easily, and the Nuggets have won rather easily. So like my feelings towards Miami not having much of a chance says less about Miami and more about how good I think the Nuggets are. But to your point, talking about like how perfect this roster is, the Heat finding success with zone against the Celtics. I would love to see Eric Spoelstra's too smart to try it, but I would love to see what would happen if the Heat really like commit to trying to play zone defense against the Nuggets, because I literally cannot think of a more perfect offense to beat a zone than the Denver Nuggets. I can't think of a better high post player literally to ever play the game of basketball than Nikola Jokic against the zone. And Aaron Gordon, like, to beat a zone, you attack the high post, you attack the short corners. Aaron Gordon is like, I want to live in the short corner. That's what I do, is I'll just like catch it and dunk it from the short corner. And Jokic is going to dice him up in the high post. So I think there's so many questions that Miami has to answer that but I want it to be a good series. But I'm kind of like you, like that's where. Well, let me frame it this way, Jason. If Miami, instead of like trying to talk ourselves into it, I'm from the future, and we're heading into Game 4, and Miami's up 2-1, and this is shocking. Like we're like, oh damn, we have a series here. How did they do it? How do you think that happened? If I told you, assuming like Jokic didn't get hurt or something, like how do you think they went about doing it? If I told you they're going to be up 2-1 in this series,
so it would have to be on the other end of the floor where their biggest advantages are. Because when I looked, I watched all the film, I dug into all the numbers, and obviously having watched these teams closely in this playoff run, like I don't feasibly see a way that Miami slows down Denver's offense. When there were 4 possessions this year where they didn't switch pick and rolls with Murray Jokic. They scored on all 4 of them. When they started switching, the Nuggets posted up the Heat 30 times in the 2 games this season, scored 47 points. That's over 1.5 per possession, okay? Against zone, they ran 13 possessions. Denver scored 20 points. You broke it down perfectly. It's Jokic, this massive target at the foul line who can score there and make quick reads out of it. So, like, I don't really see a situation where they can really slow them down. But on the other end of the floor, it's interesting. As we look at the Lakers, Anthony Davis was clearly the best player for the first 2 series against Golden State and against Memphis. LeBron was actually the best Laker in that Nuggets series, in large part because of his ability to attack matchups in switches, right? And one of the ways Denver confronted that, because what they were doing was go screens with Austin Reeves, which was causing Jamal Murray every time he lingered to give Austin Reeves a wide open 3, or if he didn't linger, LeBron was just taking him right down to the block. Well, then they ended up switching him onto D'Angelo Russell and Dennis Schroeder. D'Angelo was a shell of himself and lost his confidence, and Dennis Schroeder can't shoot on the move. So it kind of worked there. Miami actually has really good movement shooters down the board. So whether it's Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, or Max Strus or Caleb Martin, they're going to have to tuck Jamal Murray on one of those guys, which all 4 of those guys can hit pick and pop jumpers. So what you'll end up seeing is, in my opinion, a ton of Jimmy Butler matchup attacking from the top of the key, just like he did against everyone else, getting the switch he wants or hitting the shooters in those pick and pops, taking them to the cleared side and working in ISOs. And he had some success during the regular season. He had 7 post-ups in ISOs versus Denver for 9 points. Did a little bit against everybody, some against Jokic, some against Michael Porter, some against Jamal Murray. The only other thing I can think of is the weak side shooting. So Denver runs that high drop coverage with Nikola Jokic, right? So Aaron Gordon's coming over as the low man. So the skip passes are open, although Denver's a very good rotation team. They're going to have to just shoot the piss out of the basketball. which they might, like they might. Yeah. It's on the table. So like that's the way I look at it. Like they somehow managed to score as well as Denver does with weak side shooting and with Jimmy Butler attacking matchups. And maybe they get one other crazy contribution like Bam Adebayo. And then just by luck, Denver just doesn't quite shoot as well as they normally do. That would be the only pathway. But I don't think we're going to leave this series. I don't think there's any scenario where we look at this series and go, oh man, Bam and Eric Spoelstra just completely locked up Jokic. Like they had no idea what to do. Like that's not going to happen. It's just not.
I also don't think Jimmy Butler is going to just like mentally destroy the psyche of the entire franchise like he has, throughout playoff run. I don't really see that happening either. But also I always get scared when something is so obvious and it freaks me out. When something's so obvious like this, it freaks me out. And I do think Denver is much better, but I don't know. That's the beauty of basketball is anybody can get hot, but also it's like it's a 7-game series, and I don't think the Heat are going to hit enough shots over the course of 7 games. Also having the altitude helps. Like having the home court advantage, I think is going to help them, help Denver. So in terms of Jimmy and Jokic, and this might be a little too narrative based and whatever, and we're getting into like legacy talk, which like frankly I don't. It's part of the job. But one of these guys is going to win a championship. And I'm not really of the ilk to like want to rank dudes because I've always viewed basketball as an art more than a science, and I really frankly don't care if like when Jokic retires, is he top 17 or is he top 12? Like where do you have? That's not really my thing. But it is, as you said, it's part of the job. Which one of these guys do you think, like, for you personally, wins a championship? It changes. It would change more of how you see him, or like how you contextualize their career, or anything like that. If that makes any sort of sense, just how you view what their career has been to this point.
So it's hard to say because for both guys, it's a huge accomplishment. I'm not going to sit here and undermine it for either guy. I will say for Jimmy, I feel like the way he's going to be remembered is irrelevant compared to what happens over the course of this playoff series or any other upcoming season. He will always be known as the guy that never was considered that foundational superstar because he wasn't consistently great enough in the regular season. But when you were picking guys for a playoff series, he was always one of the 10 best guys. And if you had to play him in a 7-game series, you were always scared because you knew he could beat you. Like that. If someone asked me 30 years from now, what's up with this Jimmy Butler guy? His numbers don't look that good. Why does everybody think of him that way? I'd be like, he's this generation's Paul Pierce. He's that guy that in any one playoff series, he can beat you, but he's not going to be the guy you start your franchise with. But Nikola Jokic, I think there's a very interesting precedent that he breaks if he wins the title. So you may have heard me say this before, but if you look back in NBA history, every team that's won the championship has not just good rim protection, but great rim protection. You go last year and it's Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins and Kevon Looney. The year before it's Giannis Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez. Then it's LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Then it's Kawhi Leonard and Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol. And then it's Kevin Durant and Draymond Green. Then it's Kevin Durant and Draymond Green. Then it's LeBron James and Tristan Thompson. And it's Draymond Green again with Andre Iguodala. You go down the line and it literally goes all the way back.
You just ripped that off the dome, by the way. You just pulled that. You just got that. Look at this. That's incredible.
I've done that rant before, Mark. So but the point is this is what Jokic is doing is overturning a decades-long NBA trend, which is, can you be so damn good offensively that it doesn't matter that you struggle with rim protection? And again, they swept the Lakers, and the Lakers sliced them and diced them in the paint relative to what they did to Golden State. They averaged almost 20 made restricted area field goals a game compared to 12 against Golden State. So they are so well-rounded in every other area, and Jokic is so dominant in every area beyond that area of rim protection that he's able to win an NBA championship. And I think that's a really interesting precedent to set. Now, maybe he's just the exception that proves the rule, so to speak. But I do think that that's super fascinating. Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic will be by far the worst defensive front court to win an NBA championship in decades, literal decades.
So if they, never mind if they do win it, let's just talk about what we're dealing with, the reality we're dealing with now, whether Denver wins it, Miami wins it, whatever. As we sit here today, entering the finals, do you feel like there is a paradigm shift happening in the NBA with this? Because I think if it's not Denver that wins it, it's Miami that wins, and suddenly you're looking at an 8 seed winning an NBA championship, and you're looking at the Heat culture that I think a lot of people rolled their eyes at, myself included, for a long time. You're like, Heat culture, what does that even mean? And now you're like, oh shit, maybe there is something to this. Do you feel like there's a paradigm shift happening in an NBA? Because this was the comparison I made that I feel like is less crazy as the playoffs go on. But early on, I was I think the Nuggets sort of remind me of when the Warriors first came on the scene, where, as I'm sure you remember, we were having the same conversations about whether jump shooting teams could win an NBA championship, whether you can consistently hit enough jump shots over and over. And now looking back, you're like, of course, okay, that was stupid. That was stupid that people actually worried about that. Do you feel like this is a one-off deal, like you said, an exception that proves the rule type thing, or this is a paradigm shift within the league as a whole that moving forward, no matter who comes out on top, there's going to be lessons that we can learn from the way they approach it, and other teams are going to try to do something similar?
So I actually think it proves a different kind of lesson as it pertains to offensive creation. So I look at the Warriors as their own kind of exception with shot making. So I think that this is a really interesting example, especially with Jimmy and Jokic, of the types of offensive players that are reliably great in the postseason. So Steph is the outlier. He's that one guy that is so damn good as a jump shooter that he can still maintain his shot creation to the latest levels. But I do find that these guys that rely heavily on tough, contested pull-up jump shots tend to fade a little bit as things progress into the playoffs. I think you and I both know, pull-up jump shooting is all legs. You're getting separation from your defender and you have to get a ton of lift. And it's just in general is an extremely difficult to shot, especially when you're fatigued. And I don't think it's a coincidence that as we look back, it's okay, I've got Jimmy Butler, this rim pressuring forward who specializes in short range jump shots, shots within 10 to 12 feet of the rim, right? Nikola Jokic, like we talk about their 3-point shooting, and don't get me wrong, Denver's 3-point shooting is unbelievable, but the foundational element to their offense is that Nikola Jokic is going to shoot 70% on any push shots, floaters, hook shots, things in the lane, right? So like that's an easy short range shot. You go back to last year, Steph is your exception. You go back to the previous year, it's a big rim pressuring forward in Giannis. Previous year, 2 big rim pressuring forwards in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Go back to the previous year, it's Kawhi Leonard, a big rim pressuring forward. So I think that what we're learning is that size and strength for offensive players that operate closer to the basket is far more reliable on this stage than distance jump shooting, unless you're Steph Curry. That's good.
Unless you're the best shooter ever.
Yeah, and you do need shooting. Like Miami's here because they shot the lights out against Boston and they shot the lights out against Milwaukee. I'm not debating that stuff matters, but to me, the main thing needs to be something close to the rim as a rim pressuring thing, unless you're Steph. And that's going to be the interesting thing with the Suns as we look forward, is their main thing is pull up jump shots. And so it's really, it's going to be really interesting to see, even as they add some depth, if that's going to be enough to actually win a championship one day.
Well, I find it fascinating that Miami is considered like the defensive minded team and they can muck it up with the best of them. But yeah, the reason they're here is because they were hitting just an absurd number of threes against the Celtics. Meanwhile, the Nuggets, as much as you talk about the offense, I mean, like the Nuggets offense has not been a problem for a while. It's the issues the Nuggets have run into is defense. And, the questions like you had coming into the playoffs, and I think a lot of people had, is their defense now better or good enough to win a championship? But I think like the Nuggets aren't ever going to be, with this roster, they're never going to be like a defensive-minded team. They're never going to be trying to win games in the 70s or 80s. But I do think that like the improvements they've made defensively is why they're here. And I just find that fascinating. I think it's like, as much as you want to say like we should be more like the Nuggets because of their offense, it's like, well, the Nuggets, it's funny because I think the Nuggets were looking at the rest of the league and they were saying, we got to get better defensively. Now, you're to your point, like they're not awesome. They don't have like the great rim protection. But I think getting a Bruce Brown and KCP and guys like that has made a big difference for them. And likewise, I think the Heat were like, I don't think we're going to ever go that far if we continue to muck it up. So what if we tried actually making shots for a change? Because I watched that, Jason, it blew my mind. I watched that, you watched the NBA obviously a lot closer than I do, and I'm more locked in on college. But when I watched that play-in game against the Hawks, holy smokes, the Heat were like that looked like Big Ten basketball. That looked like when I was watching it. I was like, is this Rutgers or is this the Miami Heat? And then then you watch them against Boston and the ball's moving like obviously not every game, but like when they were clicking, especially early in that series, the ball's moving and like guys are cutting and Duncan Robinson's back cutting everybody. And you're like, my God, where was this offense? So I find that fascinating. The Heat are the defensive team, the Nuggets are the offensive team, but because both like identified we can't win on one side of the floor, they've kind of like met in the middle almost. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I don't think people realize just how far back this Miami thing goes, because like they were battling for play-in position over the final 25 games of the season, like just hoping to get in. So they were playing with the same level of desperation as like the Lakers, for instance. And they went 12-13 over their final 25 games. They were below 500. Then they lost to Atlanta and kind of got their ass kicked. Like they were giving up 1 million offensive rebounds. Their offense looked terrible, all this stuff. Then they're trailing with 3 minutes left against the Bulls. So like it's so funny. I was joking with the people on my show. I got the conference finals way wrong, but through the first 2 rounds, I had 10 of the 12 series picked correctly, and the 2 I picked incorrectly were the damn Miami Heat series. Because, but it's like, dude, like the best indicator of future performance is past performance, and everything that we knew about the Heat was they were a bad team, basically an average to below average team. And it was the shooting, it was Caleb Martin getting going, it was Jimmy Butler just going up to that playoff level. It was Spoelstra. I do think it's important to remember that the specific weaknesses that Boston, New York, and Milwaukee had were things that kind of played into Eric Spoelstra's coaching advantage. And I do think like, so for instance, with Denver, it's like all 3 of those teams had weak half-court offenses. Denver's got the best half-court offense in the league. You're not going to dissuade them. All 3 of those teams had guys that Jimmy could psychologically dominate. Denver has no one that can psychologically dominate, right? Like the Spoelstra coaching advantage was massive. It's going to be an advantage in the series, but not to the same extent. Boston was an inconsistent effort and focus team. Denver brings it every damn night. Like the Lakers were considered the dominant win, right? Their net rating in wins against the Lakers was like +6. Against the Suns in their wins, it was +18. yeah, they got 2 games on those otherworldly Devin Booker shooting nights, but they kind of got their ass kicked in every other game. Like that's the irony of all of this. We might come out of the season thinking the Lakers are the second best team even though they got swept in the conference finals, which is crazy. But
LeBron, if they are, LeBron will let us know. He'll find a way to like slip it in there during a press conference where he's like, by the way, of course, we were the second best team last year. But anyway, yeah, what was the question?
It is sweep. Yeah. But I do want to give Denver a little credit defensively. Like, I think like there's a difference between a bad defense from the standpoint of like effort and focus and details, and then defensive personnel weaknesses. Denver has defensive personnel weaknesses, but they're actually super locked in. They actually remind me a lot of the 2016 Cavs, who like would consistently play 3 weaker defenders, but that particular group was just locked into their jobs. Like even J.R. Smith was defending at a high level. Kevin Love was defending at a high level. Kyrie Irving was an underrated Steph Curry defender in that series. So like, I think that's kind of the way I look at this. It's like, here's our high drop coverage. We're not even going to have Jokic protect the rim because that's not what he's good at. So we're going to bring him out to basically help contain the ball handler. We got all this backside help. Their defensive rotations are super, super sharp. Their point of attack guys are really good. Bruce Brown and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope are both really good defensive players. Aaron Gordon can guard. I mean, I'm a little curious to see what that looks like against Jimmy because he's a little lower center of gravity and a little faster than LeBron was, obviously. But like they defend as well as they possibly can given their personnel. And I think that's underrated in their championship journey this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think too, like they know they don't need to play. They don't need to play awesome defense. When you have the best offense, I mean, they're incredible. I don't know. Okay, so let's talk through this as sports media guys. What is any part of you worried about Miami winning, and then now you have to like, I mean, this is sort of a similar question to talking about the paradigm shift, but I'm asking about you specifically, Jason. Like, is any part of you worried about like looking back in this offseason at just like the season you just saw and just being like, I'll be goddamn, like none of this mattered. Like the Heat were dog shit down the stretch. They squeaked their way by in the play-in, and then they go on to win the title. Like what was I doing all season trying to think like, you know, because that worries me sometimes when I cover sport. You know, like I get worried that like, shit, like they just kind of like invalidated my whole job and like what I thought I was seeing. Are we worried about that at all with the Heat? That like if the Heat go on to win this title, it's almost like an identity crisis as talking heads of basketball. Where you're like, I have to rethink everything about what I thought I knew about the NBA.
This is going to be the boring answer, but like who the hell cares about predictions, man? Like the way I look at it, it's like I'm inevitably going to be wrong. If we could pick all these series right, we wouldn't be doing this. We'd be betting on sports. Like to me that the beauty of sports is that it's unpredictable. That's why we love what we do. Like how freaking hilarious is it that the end of the Celtics Heat series was Boston impressively winning Game 6 until they blew it, and then Derek White stealing it back at the buzzer, and then they go home and get their ass kicked. Like it's like that there's no, I want to meet the guy who predicted that. Like I'm sorry, it's completely up in the air. What I find fascinating about our job, you know, is like, you know, you ever, you know, when you played in college or when you're playing in your men's league or whatever it is, or even a pickup game and you lose or you win, you kind of remember like a specific thing that happened that caused you to win or caused you to lose. Like you're sitting you're untying your shoes. Like, damn it, dude. Like we just got killed on the glass tonight. Like if we would have just grabbed some rebounds, we would have won that damn game, you know, or whatever it is. Or man, that one dude, we kept leaving him open and he was killing us from 3, you know, like that to me is the fun part of our job, is like more doing the obituary or like looking back, like the debriefing is like, let's talk about what happened, because what's going to happen is like completely crazy. But like after it happens, it's fun diving into the weeds of the basketball. Like, okay, like Jimmy Butler, instead of putting him on Tatum, we're going to put him on Jaylen Brown, okay, for all of our man-to-man situations. Because even though Jimmy's a better defender for Tatum, I think he can crush Jimmy psychologically or Jaylen psychologically. So he utterly destroys Jaylen Brown's confidence to the point where every time he puts the ball on the floor, he's poking it away. Now Jaylen has crumbled into a shell of himself, and all of a sudden it's become a 1-star team like that. You know what I mean? And now Caleb Martin's out playing him. Like those are like the fun little things that you could never predict that are fun to look back after the fact.
I agree with you. It's more fun to look back than look forward. But so okay, let me ask you it this way: what do you think the rest of basketball media is more worried about being wrong about the Heat and having to look back and be like, damn, we were wrong about this. We were wrong about this team the whole time. Like they obviously they just won the title. We have to tip our cap. Or looking back at Joel Embiid winning MVP over Nikola Jokic and being like, we fucked that up. Oh my God, did we fuck that up? Because I feel like we're already there with the MVP. But like if the Nuggets sweep and Jokic is Finals MVP this year especially, woof. When he was supposed to be the guy, Jason, like my understanding, again, you know this better than I do because I'm not plugged in on NBA until like the playoffs start. But my understanding was part of the reason Embiid won MVP is because the league had given it to Jokic 2 years in a row, and he's kind of quote unquote choked or not done well in the playoffs. And it's like this guy's obviously not that guy because he comes up short in the playoffs. So we're gonna give it to Embiid, who is like now. That's like his reputation now as he comes up short in the playoffs, whereas Jokic is about to win the chip. I don't know. It's fascinating. I feel for our brethren in sports media because they must be sweating right now. Like, what are they going to...
I want to give Joel Embiid some credit because he legitimately played better than Jokic in the regular season over the second half of the year. Kind of dominated him head to head.
Okay, so this is important because I fly in for the playoffs and I just kind of like throughout the season I'll listen to your show, I'll listen to other people, and I'm kind of like digesting. I'm watching the games I can, but I'm obviously more plugged into college. You're saying that like even if Jokic, which is you're probably correct, but even if Jokic averages like 50 points a game, wins the NBA, they win the title, he wins Finals MVP. That should not have any bearing on who we gave the regular season MVP to. That's like,
that's a totally separate thing. So, okay, what I'm saying is like, I think Embiid was a deserving MVP winner this year based on the way we've historically done it. However, I am a big believer in the fact that the regular season is not its own entity. It is part of a journey towards an NBA title. Okay. And part of that journey entails things like conserving energy to be healthy in time for the playoffs, establishing things that may not be as effective in the regular season, but that are more effective when you get to the postseason. So like, I am not a voter, but when I am a voter, I'm going to, I will be the dude who picks the guy who's the proven playoff performer over the dude who's having the more impressive regular season, because I'm a huge believer in that mattering. However, like strictly zooming in on the regular season, Jokic punted the last third of the season, didn't play any defense, was taking nights off, that kind of thing, because he doesn't care, which is fine. Joel Embiid was going balls to the walls the entire time to try to win that damn award. He won a bunch of key big national TV games. He had a game against the Celtics where he hit like a turnaround fadeaway over Grant Williams to win it at the buzzer. He obviously dominated Nikola Jokic in a head-to-head game in Philly. So like he deserved it based on the way we break this kind of thing down. But yeah, if it were up to me, like when I see things like Luka Doncic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, first team All NBA, it makes my skin crawl. And like, there's no doubt that like, and actually, I'm actually curious to hear your opinion on this. I hate this, like, oh, we're real hoopers. Like that.
No, we're real hoopers. No, let's do it. I like it. This is good. No, let's do it.
Because I always look at it as like our lower level playing experience helps us, but it's not what makes us do what we do. It's more love of the game. I think that puts us where we're at. But that said, like, I think a lot of people get overly focused on like trying to turn the game of basketball into a science when it's not. And there are legitimately there's a huge portion of the voting pool that literally says the eye test is flawed. Therefore, I must remove emotion from the equation and focus on these numbers that try to quantify these things. And to me, it's like, yeah, you're right. The eye test is flawed, but in the same way that these damn metrics are, and the way you counter the eye test flaws is the group. If there's 100 of us, then our consensus opinion will be something
finds
close
its level.
to the truth. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like my thing is like when I've had conversations with voters about this, and I want to pull my hair out. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like they're like, no, I can't even allow my eyes to, like, I have to trust these metrics because they are the unbiased, non-emotional. Like the vast majority of voters consider catch-all metrics to a great deal in these voting situations. I think that's crazy. What's your take on that stuff?
Oh, I agree. In fact, I think no metrics. I think it should be all eye test. I think because like think about Jason, like when you were in elementary school, junior high school, whatever. Like when you were a kid, like when you love basketball, just like that, at the absolute. Not to say you don't love it now, but like that moment in time where you're like, this is my life. I'm just consumed with like watching. For me, it was like probably when I was like 14. When I was arguing about basketball with my friends, if one of our friends showed up in the recess playground and started talking about VORP and like wins above, like they started, we would have just beat his ass and said, shut up, dude. And conversely, if one of our friends would have showed up and been like, I think Damian Lillard is the best player in the league, that's probably wrong, but I'd be like, all right, let's hear it. Like, why do you think that? He's like, he's got the dog in him, man. Like, he's the only guy that's not afraid to be on one franchise. And like, you start hashing out. I'm like, all right, that's respect. Like that's a good enough argument to me. That's how I grew up talking about this stuff, and that's how like. Because like I said earlier, you touched on like this is an art, not a science, and I don't think we're like so many people in basketball, and I guess this is probably it does like dovetail perfectly with like or the opposite of dovetail. I guess this makes sense as to why like I started getting out on the NBA a little bit is because right around the time when it felt like the NBA media and like the way the game was being talked about was like we're trying to solve a problem. Like we're all faced with this problem. What's the best way to solve it? And to me, basketball is like we just go out there and let it fucking rip, man. And like someone's gonna, like that's like we have strategies. You study film. I don't mean all that stuff. I just mean like not to keep bringing up college basketball examples, but this is the best way I can paint it is like in college. Every coach thinks that their way is the right way, and a lot of them are right. And like there are guys that like Tony Bennett at Virginia won a national championship averaging like 39 points a game, but then like Roy Williams will win national championships averaging 110 points a game, and everything in between, and it all works. And there's like beauty to that to me, and I want more of that in the NBA. And I guess like I've kind of fallen back in love with the NBA this playoffs because of stuff like the Heat and the Nuggets and like all these the way guys who cover the NBA are kind of not having a meltdown, but just sort of like trying to process like what we're seeing. It's super encouraging to me because it's like this is what I want basketball to be. I want to be able to watch the Heat beat the Celtics, beat the Bucks, and be like, how are they doing this? How the fuck is this happening? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And I want to watch the Nuggets and not be able to play great defense in a lot of people's minds, but Jokic is so good, Murray's so good that they can overcome. And I don't know, like that's where I'm at with it. Is just like I'm encouraged of where the playoffs are at because it does feel like a lot of people that thought they have solved basketball are now scratching their heads, saying where do we go from here? And I think that's how the sport should always be. I think we should always be at the end of every time someone lists the Larry O'Brien Trophy, we're all scratching our heads like, huh. That was crazy. Now where do we go from here? And when it starts to get predictable is when it's not fun.
I saw a Skip Bayless tweet this morning. It was like. All right, what does winning a championship mean for Nikola Jokic next on Undisputed? And right now I'm like, oh man, he's really going through it right now. Like, there's no low hanging fruit here. It's like, but it's funny because I think anybody who's played at any level, and I'm not even talking about necessarily college, but even if you just play with your men's league or if you play pickup or you played in high school, I think you have an understanding of the fact that it is impossible to quantify any player's winning impact because we've all in our journey playing have encountered a really weird player that like doesn't resemble anything that anybody else does, but the dude just finds a way to win games one way or another. And that to me is the beauty of it and what makes it so impossible. Now, I do think that you have to take advantage of the tools that are at your disposal. So I'll give you an example. Like I use Synergy a lot. Did you guys use Synergy at Ohio State?
No, I don't think it was. I don't know if it was really a thing by the time. Maybe they did. I don't know, but like it wasn't.
But they weren't giving it to the players. So like when I was at ACU, which was an NAIA school in 2014, we were using Synergy. So obviously a little bit later, but like the Synergy does play clip sorting. And I do see a lot of value in that, where it's like, okay, how many points per possession does this guy get in a post up? Okay, like that's valuable information to me. But even above and beyond that, it's like there's still 5 moving parts there. Like if I did 100 LeBron post-ups alongside the Nuggets starting lineup in place of Nikola Jokic, or 100 LeBron post-ups in this Laker lineup, he's going to score more points per possession with the Nuggets by virtue of the level of offensive talent around him. That's just how basketball works. So even when we try to kind of find data there, it's flawed to a certain extent. But I do think there's value. Like, one of the things Synergy would do is it'd be like, hey, when a guy drives to the right, he goes to the rim 82% of the time, takes a pull-up 18% of the time, or if he goes left, he shoots a pull-up 70. So there's value in these kinds of things. And I do think that they're important. And I think that's why every one of these teams has an analytics department, but strictly from the standpoint of the media and their job to vote on these awards and stuff, to me, it's just such a cop-out to fall back on that sort of thing. And honestly, I'll just say, I think it's basketball blasphemy.
No, I'm with you. That's what I think. Like, guys like Jimmy Butler are so awesome for that reason, because he turns it on in the playoffs, but he's still, we should say, like, Jimmy's not perfect, but Jimmy's been such a great example of a guy who, number one, is not friends with anyone else in the league. Seemingly, he seems to hate everybody, which is an unusual thing in today's NBA. Number two, he just goes to another level in the playoffs at times where he's got this aura around him, but like he's somehow built his brand to where when he has a bad game, you almost forget about it, which is genius. Like, good on Jimmy for figuring it out. But that's why a guy like him is so fascinating, I think, to people, is because like you can pour over his stats and his all that stuff as much as you want, but you can never fully quantify what he brings to the table. But also you can't fully make sense of like, how could a guy be in the regular season this, but then when the playoffs start, he's kind of this, and like and that'll break people's brains, which is why the older I get, the more I am shamelessly just like falling back into just like who's got the dog in him type discourse. That's what I'm interested in. Like, the older I get, I swear to God, I never thought I'd be this way, but like I really do sometimes feel like I'm just turning into my dad watching basketball, where I'll watch a guy who's like, I watch Luka, and Luka's awesome, and you put together a Luka Doncic highlight reel, I'm like, this dude's so skilled. I see it. I'm not stupid. I have two eyeballs and a brain. But sometimes I'll watch the Mavs and I'm like, no, I don't like him. I don't like the he whines. I don't like that he doesn't try. No, I just don't like him. And I feel like that's like you're not allowed to say that at times. Like, you're not allowed to just be like, I don't have to. I understand his metrics. I don't like him. I watch him play basketball. He doesn't play. His art isn't at times what my art is, so I'm just out on him. And I want, like, the older I get, the more I find myself just saying shit like that, and it's like sort of freeing, because that's what I think we should be doing.
This stuff absolutely matters. The way I phrase it on my show is there's like a difference between loving basketball and hating losing. And I think there are a lot of players in the NBA that love the game and enjoy working on their craft, but like, how many of these games devolve into nastiness, and how many of them are like, I'll give you an example. Game 6 of that Knicks Heat series, I'm watching RJ Barrett shoot before the game, and he hits 5 straight corner threes. And he kind of like claps, and he's got this kind of vibe to him, like he's just ready to go. And I'm watching it, and it was in it was in like that ESPN like pregame, where the people in the studio are talking and they're just showing clips. And I'm like, you're not going to be getting standstill threes in this game. Like, this game is going to be won in the trenches. Like, this is going to be an absolute fist fight of a rock fight of a game. That's to me is what's so interesting, is like, the teams that win are the teams that have a certain amount of the beautiful parts of the game, but at its core, it is an ultra competitive environment where like the people who have that savage streak in them are the ones that succeed. And so I do think that stuff matters. And
another great example, Devin Booker. Devin Booker is an unreal talent. You can't deny how good he is. As Devin Booker's career progresses, I will never forget the clip of him playing pickup basketball, and he gets double teamed and is like, what do I do? Like, had freaked out. And also his last 2 seasons have ended on his home court losing by 30, like just getting his ass handed to him. And a lot of people, the spreadsheet type people would say like that doesn't. If you look at like the whole reason this went to 6 games is because of Devin Booker. He had 2 great, like he's good at. I don't know. Part of me is like I see the talent. I see that he's very, very good. I also saw a dude just like willingly lose by 30 on his home court in the playoffs twice in a row now, and I can't get the clip out of my mind. I think we double teamed in an open gym, and instead of just like going full Kobe or whoever else, pick your like insane superstar here that just like locks in and is like, I'm gonna fucking rip everyone to shreds now. He was like, guys, what are we doing? And started complaining. I can't unsee that stuff, Jason, and I wish I could, but that's
it's so likable to see a player go down swinging. Like, I mean, even LeBron's had some ugly playoff exits for the record. But like in that game 4, it's like I am going to like we might lose this thing, but
that was weirdly like that was weirdly one of LeBron's best playoff performances ever. In game 4, he's getting swept. He has 2 quote unquote, what was it, to win the game or tie the game, whatever, the 2 shots down the stretch that he gets blocked and he hits the side of the backboard. And like in any other context, you'd probably be clowning LeBron because you're like, man, you're the GOAT, and you hit the side of the backboard and you get blocked by. But I watched it. I'm like, dude, that is respect, dude. You obviously have no gas left in the tank. You're just going balls to the wall.
AD was chilling for the first 45 minutes of that game too. Yeah, you're like, where's the fight? Where's the fight, man?
All right, I've taken up enough of your time. I'll let you go. Well, what's your official prediction then? You're not saying sweep, are you? You're not going that crazy, Jason.
So I picked Denver in 6 because I just have too much respect for Spoelstra and Jimmy, but I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if it's a sweep. And let's just say I have a flight booked to Montana after game 6 and I plan on making it.
Oh no.
I know I'm jinxing myself here.
Yeah. Before I let you go, you're an Arizona guy, right? Are you from Tucson? Do I understand that correctly?
Arizona, born and raised. I've lived in a couple different places, but I ended up coming back here. My wife and I's family lives nearby, and so it's just easier that way. And also, Tucson's got great weather, in case people didn't know. So
I love Tucson. My best friend went to U of A for 5 years and didn't graduate.
It sounds like you had a great time.
Yeah, I would love to come visit and spend a lot of time in Tucson. When our basketball season would end, we get like a week off between workout starting. I just hop on a plane, go out to Tucson. Are you a U of A guy then? Do you watch any of Arizona basketball?
So did you see we just got Caleb Love in the
I did, yeah.
That's
why I'm bringing it up, yeah.
Yeah, so it's tough because just by virtue of my job, unfortunately, I watch so much basketball. Like I literally wake up in the morning during the regular season and hop on Synergy and I'll watch like 5 or 6 games, or at least bits and pieces of 5 or 6 games. So like I have to try to find breaks from the game. Like for instance, like I don't listen to basketball podcasts because like I try to find an area that's like my distance from the game. You know what I mean? And it's a bummer too, because I really like what Tommy Lloyd's doing. And I did go to a game last year and I will try to follow along, but it's just such an extra commitment. When I was a kid though, man, every game. Are you kidding? Like I actually went to, I was at the game when Sam Decker hit the high arcing shot at the old
in LA,
Staples
right?
Center.
Yeah, that was in LA.
When Arizona was in the Elite Eight. Actually, that was the year after Frank Kaminsky absolutely barbecued Taylor Tarzuski. So yeah, it is. It's definitely a big culture thing around here. Actually, you know what's kind of a bummer too is the Phoenix Suns have done a terrible job marketing to Tucson. There aren't very many Suns fans down here. So really the community is completely dominated by Arizona football and Arizona basketball. But Arizona football has been so bad for so long that Arizona basketball has just been like kind of like the go-to show in town.
That's fascinating. They're almost competing against each other instead of, yeah, that's weird. All right, well, yeah. Appreciate it, Jason. I'll let you get back to it. Good luck with the flight. You can listen to Jason to Montana, I should say. Good luck with the finals. I hope you can make it to Montana. Hoops Tonight with Jason Timpf. Are you doing live shows on AMP every night? I know you've been doing that. Is that a thing you're still doing?
After every game of the NBA Finals, we'll be live on AMP.
There you go. You can listen to him live. Jason, we got to do this again, man. We got to figure out a reason to do this again. I appreciate you making time,
dude. This was a blast, and I hope we can do it again.
All right, thank you to Jason Timpf. My official prediction before I can't sit there and be in the same boat as him and saying I hate predictions, but then also ask him to make a prediction and then not make my own prediction. I think I'll probably say Nuggets in 5. I'll say Nuggets in 5, which I do understand the fear of counting out Miami, but ultimately my logic lands on what I said. to Jason, which is like nothing about my belief in the Nuggets winning in 5 games is because I don't believe in Miami. It's because the Denver Nuggets are that damn good, and I think the altitude will be a problem. And I could see Miami winning 1 at home, but then they come back in Game 5 and Denver finishes it off. But that's the thing about Jimmy Butler too, is like Jimmy Butler doesn't have to win championships. I should have fleshed that out more. I need to have Jason on in the offseason or something. We could talk about that. Like, is this run from Jimmy Butler? I didn't mean to do this. Sorry, TJ. If Jimmy Butler doesn't win the NBA championship, but he had some bad games against the Celtics, sure, but he also has like been freaking amazing these whole playoffs in the grand scheme. Is getting the Heat to this point and just building his reputation as a dog in the playoffs, is that worth more than either one of Kevin Durant's NBA championships on the Warriors? I would argue yes, it is. I would argue yes, it is. I would argue we need like a Basketball Reference needs a new bullet point that's like, he was like, it's like the way it says like 2-time champ under Kevin Durant, it says like 2-time fucking dog under Jimmy Butler, like 2-time. Same with Damian Lillard, where it's like, yeah, he's not won a championship, but remember all these playoff moments that he had. Remember Dame in the bubble? Oh my god.
That's all on Basketball Reference. It's that all. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Whew. Yeah, that's why I think Jokic needs to win it, because I think Jokic has fallen into the he doesn't care, but like I think Jokic is the allure, the aura of Nikola Jokic needs titles to add to the legacy, and he's more in that realm, where Jimmy is like, throw all the trophies away, throw all the stats away, none of that shit matters. I just want to talk about the guy having the dog in him, and that's what Jimmy Butler is. So I don't think he needs a championship to enhance his legacy. It would help, obviously. I mean, it would definitely help, but I think if Jimmy has a great finals and the Nuggets still win in 5, I think we're all walking away saying great things about Jimmy Butler.
I think the series probably goes 7, because this whole NBA playoffs has just been proven to be like rigged for ratings. They literally extended Game 6 so Derek White could push it to Game 7. Like, what would the NBA rather have? A 4-game sweep and then a week off with no television ratings and no Inside the NBA, or go the full 7? Yeah.
You're pointing out that they added time.
Yes, and I know it's a stadium clock versus TV clock thing, but I'm just saying, what would the NBA rather have? More basketball or less basketball? So
you're saying if they didn't add time, if you really think about it, the Heat would have beat the Celtics 5 times in 7-game series?
At least.
Wow. So like really Game 6, the Heat won. So by my count, that's 5-2 in the series. The Celtics lost 5-2. Wow. Now that's impressive. That's never been done in NBA history. So maybe hang that banner in TD Garden. We lost the series 5-2. Yeah, wouldn't that be funny if the Heat just like swept the Nuggets?
Just obliterated them? No, I bet I would bet that it goes 6 or 7, and the better storylines I think are on the Heat side. So I'll say Heat in 7.
Yeah. That would be something if like Jason and I are talking about like Jimmy Butler's not going to put the Nuggets in the psychological torture chamber, but he actually does, and you just get like Jamal Murray looking at the bench like I don't know, man, I don't know what to do. He's he's saying a lot of mean things to me, and Jokic is like I've never seen a defender quite like Bam Adebayo.
I want the Jokic brothers to get back involved in this series too. I need them like flanking. Yeah.
Jimmy versus the
Nancy Kerrigan. They steel pole him in the locker room.
But like if Jimmy doesn't even have a good series, but he tries to fight both the Jokic brothers 2-on-1.
That's a win. That's a win for all of us.
That's a win for Jimmy's. That's what I'm saying. Like we need these bullet points on his Hall of Fame bust. Like we need that like on the display. We need like fought the Jokic brothers 2-on-1. Okay, let's go through the funniest outcomes. I think Heat sweep is funny. I think Heat going up 3-0 and then blowing this series is very, very funny. I think if the Nuggets go down 3-0 and then they're the ones that come back against the Heat and they win Game 7 after the roller coaster of the Celtics series, that would be very funny. I don't think there's really a way the Nuggets win that's funny. The Nuggets can't win in a funny way, really. I don't know what like a sweep's not really. Yeah, and there's got to be something else off the court. There's got to be like some sort of like Nikola Jokic hits the game winner and then like talks shit about Embiid winning MVP in the post,
or like
or
Jimmy
like
Butler gets like caught at a dispensary in Denver the night before Game 7 or something and gets suspended.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. There's no. When you're a heavy favorite like the Nuggets are, I guess there's no real way for it to be fun. It's basically Heat sweep or Heat go up 3-0 and then blow it. Those are the two, I guess. Those are the two. All right, NBA draft deadline is tonight. Those of you listening already know what Zach Edey has decided to do. As we are recording this, we don't know what Zach Edey is going to decide to do. Zach Edey had, according to the people that were paying attention, he seemed to be doing really well in this NBA draft process. He seems to be. I was seeing videos of Zach Edey jab step shooting threes, and it looked pretty good. So. Here's the thing about these NBA draft decisions, and maybe this is a moot point because maybe he's coming back or maybe what, I don't know. But as you sit here right now and you're saying to yourself, why is Zach Edey waiting to make his decision when he's a 7'4" dinosaur that would have been valuable in the NBA in 1993, but in 2023 has no place on an NBA court? Why would he want to enter the draft when you could come back to Purdue and lose to another 16? No, I'm kidding. Come back to Purdue and Purdue would probably, if he comes back, Purdue is going to be very highly ranked and highly thought of, and they would be a very, very good basketball team. So why would he go to the draft if he's going to be a second round pick? And I think this isn't even about Zach Edey. This is just about all of these decisions. I think the thing we got to keep in mind with this stuff is that these players aren't necessarily they're not entering the NBA draft or not entering the NBA draft. Like, that's not exactly all the calculus that goes into this. It's not all like, where is my NBA draft stock? Zach Edey could very well believe that he could go to Europe and make a shit ton of money. And like, this is part of it, is he's just ready to start his professional career. But the way this stuff gets framed is always, can he play in today's NBA or can he not? And since he can't, that must mean he has to come back. And I think that's an antiquated way of looking at it. There are far more leagues around the world where you can make a ton of money, be very, very good, and you do have value as a big man like Zach Edey. That's not to say that like if he decided to stay in the draft, that he is planning on going to Europe per se, but like there's more that goes into it of like I'm sure these are conversations he's having with his agent. Is like, all right, so where do we stand in the draft? All right, if teams are saying I'm late second round, what is the contingency plan if I don't get drafted? Do you think there's a team out there that will sign me? Do you think there's a team that, bring me into the G League? Is that a path we want to go? Do we want to go to Europe? There's so much more that goes into it, but I think that people are so conditioned to say he's entering the NBA or he's not entering the NBA. If he's not an NBA player, why would he do that? What a moron. This is a horrible decision. And that's not, at this point, I'm not even talking about Zach Edey. I'm just talking about college basketball players as a whole. But I just wanted to say that because I think like we unfairly talk about these guys and say they're dumbasses for doing XYZ when they should have known that they were never going to get drafted. It doesn't have to. It could just simply be, I want to be a professional basketball player and I'm ready for my career to start. Like Kyle Guy's a guy that comes to mind. Kyle Guy won most outstanding player in the Final Four in 2019. They win the national championship. He had a year of eligibility left. He was not a first round pick. He was not a guy that was like, he knew what his draft stock was. He just looked around. He's like, I won the national championship. I did all I could do. I don't expect to be a lottery pick. I just want to go play professional basketball somewhere. Let's just get this process started. I've had enough of college. Here we go. So Zach Edey, yes, he hasn't had the team success. They've not gone to a Final Four. They've not won a national championship. But if in fact he decided to stay in the draft, it could just be as simple as that. It's like, I've done all I could do in college. I won National Player of the Year. I've been dominant the last couple of years. I'm ready for what's next, and that could be it. And that could be true of a lot of different guys that are making quote unquote bad decisions because they are not going to be top 20 picks.
On the other side of the argument, something you didn't even mention though is NIL. That could keep you in college.
It could keep you in college, yeah. And who knows what goes into that, because I still think we're awaiting the big reckoning with NIL stuff, that we're going to start hearing the stories of guys that aren't getting paid, and they came back to college for $1 million a year, and that $1 million they were promised turned out to be like $117,000. And they signed a shitty contract because they had their brother look over it for him. And, I still think we're waiting for that reckoning. But yeah, maybe he comes back for that reason. There's just so much that goes into it. And I just think that like whenever I digest conversations that are had about these guys, E or otherwise, it just seems to be the framework of how it was 10, 15 years ago. And that framework is thrown out the window. And yeah, there could be guys that are just like, I want to go play. I want to go play in Spain. I know exactly what Spain team. I've been talking to a Spanish team, and they're going to give me money when I don't get drafted, and I'm going to enter the draft, and then I'm going to go undrafted, and then everyone's going to be like, what a moron. Why would he do that? And it's like, well, because I'm making $800,000 to play professional basketball. That's why I'm doing that. Other note I want to talk about, Caleb Love to Arizona. I can't believe I didn't think about this, TJ, when I was trying to guess where Caleb Love would end up. This is such an obvious, in retrospect, no-brainer in terms of both the hilarity of it, but also like the systematic fit. But all like Arizona is point guard U in my mind. It always has been. It is where like the guys. I don't know. I remember that when I think of great point guards that are just electric as shit, I think of Arizona. I do. And Caleb Love, love him, hate him, whatever. He is that. He's must-see TV. Last year for a lot of the wrong reasons, but he gets me to turn on the television. I'll put it that way. And for Arizona to go from Kirk Kriisa being your point guard, thinking when you lose to Princeton in the NCAA tournament, you're thinking Kirk Kriisa is going to be your starting point guard next season. He transfers to West Virginia. You're a little surprised by that, or like, what the hell is going to happen there? Oh no, where's our point guard going to come from? Then Ryan Nembhard enters the portal from Creighton, and you say, Tommy Lloyd, Nembhard family, got it. We're going to get Ryan Nembhard to replace Kirk Kriisa. That is a massive upgrade. This is going to be awesome. I'm so excited as an Arizona fan that we actually got better by losing the guy who has sort of become the face of our program. Weird how that worked out. Then Ryan Nembhard goes to Gonzaga instead, and you're like, fuck. But then you land on Caleb Love, who is somehow Kirk Kriisa on steroids in terms of the volatility and just the absolute chucking and all of that. It's perfect, and I can't believe I didn't see this. It just makes so much sense that Kirk Kriisa was running your ship. Now it's Caleb Love. I feel so bad for Arizona fans who are hoping for a more steady basketball viewing experience. I don't think you're getting that, unfortunately. But Caleb Love can be good, man. That's where I would like if my school was in the mix with Caleb Love, I would be like, I don't think I really want him. I don't think I want the bad kind of outweighs the good in my mind. I don't know if this is worth it. But then the second he would sign, I'd be like, fuck it. I don't see any of the red flags at all. I see nothing but the shot over Mark Williams to beat Duke in the Final Four. I see nothing but the guy who said I'm him 1,000 times in the 2022 NCAA tournament. I would just fall in love with all that, and I don't know. I would drink the copium. I would just ingest copium, as they say, TJ, because I really do feel bad for Arizona fans coming off of losing to Princeton. Is this a legacy year for Tommy Lloyd already?
I feel bad. Arizona fans keep getting top-level recruits and point guards every year. Cry about something else. Could be worse. Although we had good news today in the Rutgers world, so that's all we can be happy with. Cliff Omoruyi, you big man coming back, was in the same.
Oh.
He's back next year, which is much needed because we have a bunch of open roster spots.
Did he say he's coming back to Rutgers or coming back to college?
He said he wants to stamp his legacy, graduate from Rutgers. And then Dylan Harper commented like this tough family on it, so eyeball season.
Makes you think. Makes you think. Caleb Love actually feels more like an Arizona State player now that I think about it. He feels like something that because there are gonna be games next year where he single-handedly wins it for Arizona, and you talk yourself into Arizona being good, and then yeah, he's got the Remy Martin vibes to him. I should have seen. I can't believe I didn't think about that. That makes so much sense. Tommy Lloyd, Caleb Love, Arizona. I'm so excited for college basketball. I love college basketball so much. I can't even as the show progresses, dude, and we start doing other stuff, and I don't know what we're gonna do if the NBA is over, but we'll figure it out. I'm gonna talk a lot of NFL, I think, on the show eventually. We're gonna talk some college football on the show. no matter where I go in this career of mine, TJ, I will always be obsessed with 19-year-olds playing basketball. It's a flaw I have. I can't help it. And I just like seeing Caleb loved Arizona news. I'm like, yes, let's go. Let's tip it off tomorrow. You know he's playing in Cameron Indoor. You know Arizona's playing in Duke this year. Isn't that funny? So he's gonna be playing back at Duke. I think they play in like December, I want to say. But they signed a home and home deal. So I think Arizona goes to Duke this year, and then Duke comes to Arizona next year, the next season. So that'd be awesome. To Tucson. Or to Cameron. Yeah, we actually played I played AAU in there. I've never been to a Duke game there. That's still like a blind spot for me. It's the one I've never seen a Duke game there, but I've been to Cameron 5 or 6 different times to play AAU tournaments. We played on the main court and everything, so like I kind of felt like I got the experience, but at the same time, I imagine obviously the Cameron craze and everything makes it.
I had a friend that was like their video coordinator on Coach K's last year, and he would just post like stories and stuff, and every single game it was like Celebrity Row because it was Coach K's last year, or Mr. K rather, and it looked like a one of a kind basketball experience. Like I feel like I got a pretty good experience of like what loud crowds and stuff sound like, but that just looks like next level with the history and stuff. Tucson's
awesome, by the way. The McHale is awesome. It's an awesome environment. I freaking love that place. I love going to games there. But yeah, I need to get to Cameron. Cameron's probably the I'm trying to think of the big ones that I've not. I still haven't been to the Yum Center, the KFC. I've been to Rupp Arena. I've been to Allen Fieldhouse. I've been to obviously all the Big Ten ones I've been to, except for Rutgers. I haven't been to the Rack. But the Palestra I haven't been to either. I need to hit that one. I'm trying to think of the ones that like people consider iconic. That New Mexico, the Pit. That's supposed to be an awesome environment, awesome arena. I've never been to that one. But Cameron Indoor is like the one of all the blue bloods because I've been to Chapel Hill and been to Dean Dome and I've been to Pauley. So yeah, but yeah, we should make that happen. Let's go to a Duke game. All right, anything else? Any shout-outs before we go? You're wearing a suit and tie. Explain to the people what's going on there.
The other show I work on, the Yak, today, we went to a very fancy French restaurant lunch, Le Bernardin. And I'm wearing my brick watch that I put on today thanks to their new hire. I saw on Twitter today. I had to break mine out to celebrate.
From the ashes he rises. Ben Mintz is back. I'm a little nervous though, TJ. I don't know if you looked at the calendar, but
tomorrow, yeah, as you're listening to this, wake up. It's the first of the month.
So when you go to this restaurant, is the dressing up a bit, or is this something you have to do to get into the restaurant?
Business casual in quotes, but they're like no open-toed shoes, no t-shirts, no like I could have gone in like a polo and khakis probably. But I don't own that much good clothes.
I need that quote card. I don't own that much good clothes.
This is like the nicest possible outfit I could
wear. I assume you're like I was in my 20s, which is I own basically a bunch of sweats and then like 1 or 2 suits that I would wear for nice stuff, but nothing in between. There was no like if I
don't have like sort of nice stuff. I have sweatshirts and like 4 pairs of pants and then this suit and this shirt and this tie.
Dude, I was well into my 30s before I started buying the mid-tier. I don't know what else to call it. Like the business casual, I guess. I don't even own any business casual.
I guess like if I had like a normal job or something, I probably would have to have like collared shirts with an S on the end of it, but in college and high school, I was dressing up way more often for some reason, and then like as soon as I graduated, it was like, I guess I'll just throw all this stuff away.
This got me nowhere. I thought if I dressed up and brought an apple to all my professors, I would go far in life. That didn't fucking work.
An embarrassingly large amount of Vineyard Vines clothing items, polos. No, I either wore like a polo or like a nice Vineyard Vine shirt and like salmon shorts or like athletic shorts.
I cannot imagine
Those are the
you.
only 2 things I wore.
I cannot. I can't see that at all on you, honestly. We need to put that on your wheel for the yak. You have to show up in
Sperry's
Vineyards
and
Vine stuff.
Sperry's and Nike Elite socks.
How did Brandon do at the lunch? Did he make a buffoon of himself?
Fine. It wasn't like a very Brandon friendly. Like he ordered like crab cake. It was his like appetizer or whatever, and I think he was expecting like a plate of crab cakes with like veggies and potatoes on it, and it was like one like quarter size crab cake under like some crispy mysterious thing with like a spin of sauce around it, and I think he was waiting for them to bring the rest of it out the whole time, and then he ate it in like one bite, and he was like, all right, that was pretty good.
How many times did he ask him to bring ketchup to dip his stuff in? Because we went to an Italian restaurant when I was in New York, and Brandon, I was alarmed. His pasta comes out and he asked for ketchup to put on top of it, and I was just like, I'm kidding. People will take that seriously. No, the one Brandon we got charcuterie. We went out to dinner in New York. We had a lovely date, Brandon and I. Lovely date. Came back to my hotel room. We had a little nightcap. It was lovely. And but we went to a decent restaurant in New York, and we got some charcuterie because they sold us on it. They're like, you know what looks good to you guys? Just what if we brought out a fuck ton of meat and cheese and you guys just went to town? And we were both like, that sounds pretty good. And they bring it out, and I don't want to say that he just like dove in like he was a caveman, but I remember when I you know, like I'm from rural Indiana, TJ, and I'm a redneck, and like I've had to learn some things as I've gotten older, but I like to think that I've gotten to a point where like I know kind of the type of restaurant I'm at and like the formalities of stuff. And when they bring out like the little honey, they had like a little thing of honey. I was expecting Brandon to like dab his knife in the honey, dab a little bit on the bread, take a little bit of the prosciutto or whatever, the salami, whatever meat we had, I don't even remember. Put a little bit on there, make like you're basically charcuterie board. You're basically doing adult Lunchables, but you got to like have a little class to it, you know. This motherfucker was doing Lunchable. He was just like he ripped open the package, just grabbing the bread, like dunking it in the dunking the bread in the honey. And that's why I was worried about him at the lunch, because I think, I think Brandon is he's so much older than me though. You'd think he would figure this out at some point. But it was a sight to behold. It was you know, he was just like he wasn't a full barnyard animal, but I was like, damn, dude, this guy is just barehanding all these loaves of bread.
He didn't learn how to use like a fork and knife until he was like 21, so it's fine. Like you put a plate of meat in front of him, you have to expect him to go into some sort of rage.
But that's the thing. The thing about Brandon is, yes, he is a dumb redneck, but he's also fat. So like it's like a double-edged thing with it. Yeah, it's both. Right,
it was great though. I get the hype. That's like the fanciest restaurant I've ever been to, that sort of thing. But I get it. Like I'm sure it's even fancier at night. This was like a lunch special, but it was good. It was a bunch of fish stuff and a dessert. It was nice.
The food scene in Chicago, I'm actually very excited for. It is. I don't know if underrated. I don't know where it's rated, but I think a lot of people. If you were to ask people like Chicago food, what do you think of? They'd say deep dish pizza probably. Big old hot dog, and they have that. But there's a lot of world class restaurants in Chicago that'll blow your socks off. So we should do it for content. If we do it for content, we can write it off. We got Barstool pay for it. We can write it off. Yeah, that's what you and I should start a series where we just try to grift our way into the nicest restaurants in Chicago.
It's us trying to find out what restaurant in Chicago is the nicest, and every episode we're like, it's not there's got to be nicer.
We can do better. It never ends. I have a couple of things I want to hit. My one shout out though was the Indy 500 was awesome. It was an all-time day at the track. The race was incredible. I don't know. I'm assuming you didn't watch it, TJ. That's okay. But did you see the clip?
Flying? Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. Did you see the wheel go flying? It was right by in turn 2. It was by the suites. And when I was growing up, my dad had a connection with Coca-Cola. They had a suite in there, and we used to go to qualifying right there in those suites. So that could have been me, TJ. That could have been me. 8-year-old me was in those suites for qualifying, not the real race, but for qualifying. So that was one of those moments that like makes you stop and think, damn, That's pretty crazy. That maybe could have been me. Yeah, it hit a car in the parking lot, and there's like a big dent on the car. But that was a freak thing. That's not so. In 1987, a wheel went into the stands and hit a guy and killed a guy, and one of the wildest things about racing is going back and looking at, like, it's like obviously super morbid, but like going back and looking at the crashes and just thinking like, dude, that is fucking wild. How far they've come with making the sport safe for like a guy, because the guy Kyle Kirkwood's the guy who lost his wheel. He flips upside down. He's sliding upside down along the wall, and then they flip the car back over. He gets out and he's just like, "What's up, everybody?" And it's crazy. But then some of these crashes, like I don't know, but that blows my mind. Like the Dale Earnhardt crash that killed Dale Earnhardt. It's crazy that killed Dale Earnhardt. Like in 2023, you watch that crash, you're like, how did this happen? This should not have happened. But it's like it's crazy how dangerous the sport used to be. But in '87, a tire killed a guy. So like they've made huge strides in making that not happen. and for that to happen, woof, scary times. And then Joseph Newgarden won the race and he ran to the stands. I don't know if you saw that clip too. That doesn't happen, but he won. He wins. He parks his car at the start-finish line, jumps out, goes under the fence, and then just like partying with the fans, like jumping up and down, mosh pit with the fans. That was pretty awesome. So had a great time. Indy 500 was out. Coca-Cola 600 I was fired up about because of Spider, and then it got rained out, and they ran it on Monday, and it was during Game 7. And
one of our guys,
like,
Quiggs, was there, and he was just like, well, I guess we're going to drink for 5 hours to pregame a race that's not happening. And they did. So
that sucks. And then the last thing I was going to say is I'm balls deep in this new Zelda game, and I'm officially the worst Zelda player of all time. And I got to figure out, like, as I'm a genius at figuring out new ways to die, and it makes me want to do like a Twitch or something. It makes me want to live stream me playing, because I think if our audience could watch me play the Zelda game, it would be the most infuriating thing you have ever seen in your life. Like literally, like I can't even ride a horse in a fucking straight line, TJ. Like I'm like riding my horse to the edge of a cliff, and then I get off the horse and I like fall to my death. I'm so bad, and but I love that the game is incredible. I'm like, this game is awesome. I have barely scratched the surface, but I don't know what happened. The old game I felt like I was not that bad at. It's basically the exact same game. I think I've just gotten older and I'm terrible at it, but I just wanted to go on record as saying that I might be the worst Zelda player ever, and we should figure out a way for me to live stream, because I think people would be so angry. They would be so angry watching me try to just complete simple tasks in this game. They would lose their minds. So anyway, that's my review. Anything else?
Two things. Josh Hart last night tweeted, have y'all ever tasted y'all's significant other breast milk? Asking for a friend.
Is he drinking it straight from the source, or is this because I need more context, I guess. Like the answer is no, first of all, for me. That's not something I'm super interested in. But I've also never had a wife or girlfriend pregnant to where, I guess I've never even had the opportunity, I've never had a pregnant significant other.
It's like someone asks you, hey, do you do drugs? And I'm like, well, never been offered, but I guess if the situation was right.
There's some woman in a trench coat in a dark alley, and she's just like, psst, hey, want some of this? She's opens up her boob pops it. But I imagine... All right, if I'm trying to think here, like if you're, like if he's like super, was he? Are we reading this as him being like super horny? Like, is this like a deal where he's like, he's having sex with his wife and he like wants to in the moment?
Either did it, or because CJ McCollum responded and said, "Sick conversation. Heard it goes down like almond milk." And Josh Hart said, "Not to lie to you, it's better." So like Josh Hart did this. He wasn't asking for a friend. He was asking because he did it, and maybe his wife was like, "That was weird, right?" So
he's definitely drinking out of the bottle then. Like it's his wife pumps the milk, and then he's drinking it like later. He just goes to the fridge, cracks open a bottle of breast milk and drinks it. I guess it feels very weird, TJ, but isn't it like kind of weirder that we drink milk from a cow titty? Like, if you really think about it, like, wouldn't it make more sense to drink our own species of milk?
What was the first guy that was going down into a cow's undercarriage and being like, this looks pretty good. Like, what was that guy? What was that guy thinking exactly?
It's a great point. I think my initial instinct is this is weird. I've never done it myself. As you asked me the question, I'm not exactly interested in doing it, but as I think on it more, I'm like, it's no weirder than drinking like a goat milk, is it? I don't think. So I'm all for it. I don't know. Maybe I should try it.
He's so funny, though, because then he woke up this morning and was just like, damn, y'all are hilarious. And then 3 hours later just tweeted, Villanova going to be a problem next year. Like, right back to business.
We got to book Josh Hart on this show just to talk about Villanova and drinking titty milk, and that's it. Those are the only things we're talking about. Nothing else.
My other thing, both of our first-round matchups in the Dozen Tournament 3 have now aired. I won mine. We beat the defending champions. What happened?
We were cheated, TJ. I don't know if you saw the controversy,
both
but
teams cheated actually on the same question.
What happened? How did we cheat?
It was the same. Like, people were like, the comments were both saying Donnie said something and Rudy said something during the bonus round, but it was about the same instance. So
it was when I was going though. Donnie never said anything to me.
I think he was talking to himself.
Yeah, he might have been reliving or replaying his question, the question before. The Dozen. That was extremely frustrating for Team Smockin this year. I don't know. I want to say I want to flush it down and move forward. I'm starting to think that maybe I'm not even Jason Tatum, but that was the name. I'm the Jaylen Brown of the Dozen, dude. I was literally second team all Dozen this year. Like Jaylen Brown was second team all NBA. I think I might be Jaylen Brown of the Dozen. I really think so. I think like if you catch the right instance of me playing, you see a lot of promise. You talk yourself into me being a max contract guy. I do think I'm a good final answer guy. I think that helped us where Kinjack would YOLO some of the answers when he was final answer guy. And I think like I'm good at talking it out with the team. I really think that like I show promise, but I fall apart in the playoffs, dude. Like I think the moment is too big for me, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I think that's refreshing. I think it's good for men to admit that they're pussies and like they're mentally weak, like in these moments. And like to say that the lights are too bright. I think the lights are too bright. There, I said it. Is that what you want me to say, Dozen fans? The lights might be too bright for me in the Dozen tournament. I don't know what else to say because this year we lost, I think, 4 times in overtime. 3 times in overtime. We lost 5 matches, I believe. 3 were in overtime and 2 were on the final question, like at the quote unquote buzzer, I guess. So what else? What other conclusion is there than like I don't have the clutch gene?
Yeah, sounds like a coaching issue.
Fire our coach.
Hire a coach and then fire him.
We should. Yeah, I don't know, but good luck to you guys. Who do you guys got next? You guys have the yak next.
My mom texted me 2 things during your match. She said Titus has good hair, and then she just texted me a picture of handsome Squidward from SpongeBob. She thought that was what the logo was.
Oh, the Smockin logo? Oh, I thought you were gonna say she said that about me, that I was handsome Squidward there. Yeah, that's one of those. I think I've tried to explain that to my mom at one point why we're Team Smockin. She watches me on the Dozen, and she almost makes it worse because she'll like text me every time we lose, and she's like, "Oh, so close! You're so good. I thought, oh man." And it's like, Mom, this is actually far worse. So you're trying to console me. Or she's like, you guys were so close. I'm so proud of you for being close. And I'm like,
the same conversation you probably got like on the ride home from like AAU games for like 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, but trying to explain what Smockin is did you try to explain it?
I just sent her back like the Know Your meme with like the picture of the original guy.
I tried with my mom and I was like, it's just a thing, Mom.
So there was this anonymous internet guy that disappeared.
Are you familiar with T-Lizard? Are you familiar with... all right, that's the show. That's it. We'll be back next week talking finals, man. The finals will be underway. Hopefully it's not... we're going to have to pivot to NBA draft stuff pretty soon, I guess. But for now, we'll see what the finals... I locked me in Nuggets in 5. You're saying Nuggets in 7?
I'll say Heat in 7. I want to be
Heat
different.
in 7. That's fun. Why not? Say it. Yeah, Heat in 7. That's good. That's good for the show too. We're covered, dude. That's good producing there, TJ. We have both sides covered. All right. That's it. See you guys.